Pursuant to Section 15 of the contract, will initiate proceeding immediate injunctive relief.
So we just saw a character just say almost nothing, but sound really, really legalese saying it. This is why people hate lawyers. Here we go, Mark Breyer of the Husband Wife Law Team. We're going to comment on more of these videos. Today, we're going to look at Kim Kardashian's law-related show, All's Fair. I have no idea what's about to happen. I didn't even know the show existed until just now. However, I appreciate how many people are watching. I did realize that 97.6% of you just reported to me are not subscribed yet. What? So don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and comment. Love to hear your voice. This is actually a real trial lawyer. I don't just play one on YouTube. I don't just play one on TV. Let's have some fun. Let's see what we think. So we're at the first episode of the season. They gather both sides around a huge table in a big law firm, and they have them each say rude things to each other to look tough in front of their clients. But generally in a mediation, you're not even in the same room for most of the time. Years ago, more and more mediations had people in the same room, and all it did was drive people further apart. The goal of a mediation, you can't win the mediation. There's no judge, there's no jury. You have to come to an agreement. And so just looking tough in front of your client, generally not successful. By splitting the parties up, not putting them at the same table, you eliminate some of that problem.
Lionel, when are you next available? 2030, 2035?
So next, we see in the mediation, everyone's gathered around the table, and we have one side saying, all right, we don't get what we want. We're going to just delay this for years and years and years. That goes almost without saying. There's almost always a party that would prefer to stretch it out and another party that wants to get it done faster. So you can throw that out there, but ultimately the judge or the court rules combined are going to limit how much you can delay it or try to delay it. But yeah, I think it's inherent in litigation that usually whoever's got the money wants it to go out as long as possible so they can hang on to their money and hope the person coming after them gets worn out. What's super realistic is that it happens in every case. In every case, someone's trying to delay. It's just who. It is less common that someone flat out says it, because if you say it, the other person can go to the judge and go, Judge, they're purposely dragging this out. They said it at the beginning of the case they were going to drag it out, Judge. You don't have to say it. Everybody knows who wants to delay it, both by their actions and by where they sit at the table, so to speak, meaning what party they are and what the situation is.
All right, remember, stay calm, deep breath. Here we go.
All right, so now we got Rick Springfield walking in. Not just any Rick Springfield, not just the star actor, star musician, but best known for showing up at the husband-wife law team party and performing. So I'm just saying, this is a great moment for him. He has a lot of great moments in his career. Nothing's probably going to top being at our firm party because we bring it like that. But that's a big moment for me. I didn't know that we were going to have Rick Springfield out here today, so that's very cool. Rick Springfield walking into a legal show. What? Okay. So now we have a negotiation session of some type where we got a client and a lawyer on one side, a client and a bunch of lawyers on the other. And here's what's not realistic. I'm watching this episode and they keep giving each other new information.
Actually, we were thinking...
When you show up at a mediation, if you have something great, it's a killer thing. If I don't show it to you in advance, I probably won't get as much money as I want. Either side, whether I'm trying to get less or trying to get more, I need to be able to show it to you so you can consider it. And you have the opportunity to realize you're in trouble for what I have so that you're prepared to give me more or less depending what side of the table I'm on. Here, it is a constant attack. You know, in this case, we just found out, oh, well, we have a doctor who's going to testify and he's going to say these things and he's going to say your client did this, that, and the other.
Dr. Costa records every initial intake just in case of a malpractice suit, of which we are one of many.
And it was your client who insisted she undergo a neck lift, cheek and lip augmentation.
First of all, it's highly unlikely a doctor would ever say that the patient did not want these surgeries, someone else made her do it. Because as a doctor, he shouldn't be doing the surgery. So he's not gonna throw himself under the bus. So it's highly unlikely that would ever happen. On top of that, if you tell me that for the first time across the table, that you have a key witness and his notes and he's gonna hurt me, am I just gonna believe you? I'm not gonna believe you. I'm gonna take the time to do my due diligence. So by telling me this for the first time now, all you've done is guarantee that this can't work. So there's all kinds of things going on in these negotiations that would be highly unlikely. One other piece. Clients are not usually there in most negotiations unless it's a mediation and then in separate rooms because it's counterproductive.
This is extortion.
My client reacting to what the other lawyer said does not help my client, so I don't want them there when I'm having that discussion. It also gets in the way of true negotiations, which is listening closely to what the other side says, considering it, things that are harder if you're also balancing out the client's hearing this number for the first time, not from me, so I can explain it, from the other side in whatever rude, aggressive way you want to do it, like happened here.
There's no way on paying $100 million to that reptile face backbrain mother.
So now we just saw in a clip where one side threatens to go public with something to a big magazine against a rock star.
We're also prepping a civil lawsuit, which we can gently tease to Rolling Stone. I mean, can't you just see the headlines?
And then they kind of leave the room. And then the lawyer at the end, when the other client calls her client a greedy bitch, she says,
We're the greedy bitches. It's what we do best.
you don't have to worry. They already think that's you. The lawyers often get blamed by parties more than the actual opposing party. So you don't even have to go there. That's generally what they assume in any event. Rolling it back to the other first part of this, I would just say that you got to be really careful as a lawyer because you have ethical obligations. Actors, no ethical obligations. TV shows, ethics just get in the way of a lot of fun. In the real world, threatening blackmail, probably a bad idea. So now we have a scene where a client just got, I think, around $100 million in a lawsuit. Not satisfied with getting $100 million, decides to go and throw sulfuric acid onto the face of the person she had previously sued. Let's break this down, shall we? First, we have two parts of our criminal justice system. We have a criminal side. Yes, she's going to jail. A lot of witnesses in the restaurant when it happened. And then we have a civil side. Now, everyone would say, whoa, he's got a great lawsuit, right? Because he can now go ahead and sue her for the $100 million that may or may not have happened already. Here's the problem. If he hasn't given her the $100 million yet from the first lawsuit, he has a counterclaim. She still has her lawsuit. He has his. They'd be going on at the same time, if at all possible. The parties would likely end up having those joined by the judge. Now, it's not so much that her claim goes away because of this action of hers, but she's going to lose all credibility, whether it's a judge, an arbitrator, or a jury. If she does this, if she would have gotten $100 million, she's not getting it anymore. Now, let's play it out differently. She already got the $100 million, so he would get it back, right? I mean, look what she did to him, and the problem is she might have already spent it. So the three parts of the law that we hear about all the time are liability, who's at fault, causation, can you prove what that fault caused if someone was negligent, and damages, how much money is owed for what you did. But there's a fourth thing we don't learn in law school. It's the ability to pay. And you can't get blood from a turnip. So if someone got $100 million, but they spent it all, hopefully they didn't, but if they did, then she may go to jail, but she may never be able to pay back any of the money that she should otherwise have to pay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I'm late. Don't let it happen again.
So we got a scene where lawyer shows up late, lawyer starts crying, the client is just ripping her lawyer to her face and then to everyone else.
Are you f***ing crying?
Okay, that could happen. Doesn't happen a lot. That lawyer and that client need to get a new lawyer and a new client and go their separate ways because they are not bound together and those two should not be working together. They do not see the world the same way. You don't see a lot of that. Usually the tension between lawyers and clients is hidden and the other side can't see it. You know, it's a united front when you're at any kind of hearing, but it's not unheard of that you see it happening. You could tell that there's some sort of tension between lawyer and client, but it's usually not as obvious as we have in this scene. We have a scene now where the lawyer and client have now gotten into it, and the lawyer basically says the client's a rotten human being, and it's all on the record.
Rotten hell. All that sh**.
We have an ethical problem for the lawyer, okay? Not quitting. You can quit. You could even quit in the middle of a mediation unless it caused prejudice to your client, and it might. So the lawyer's got all kinds of problems. If your client's a rotten human being, saying that in front of the other side, let alone on the record. It's not the record so much because what the lawyer's saying is not evidence. It's a lawyer's opinion, but it hurts the client's case. So generally you might have a problem there. Then you're leaving in the middle of a hearing of some type. Now, generally at a mediation, you don't have a court reporter. So we don't know exactly what's going on here as to why is the court reporter even there. But this lawyer, no matter how justified, probably has a problem or potentially has a problem with the bar. Now in this next episode, we got a lawyer driving drunk. Is that a problem? Yeah. In front of a lot of state bars, it is an ethical violation to drink and drive. It's not just a criminal violation. If you hurt someone, it's not just so you can go to jail just for doing it, right? Just like anyone else. You could get sued if you hurt someone just like anyone else. But as a lawyer, you have ethical obligations. And many times the state bars across the country will find it to be an ethical violation for drinking and driving. And many state bars require you to report it to them. You need to go tell them you just got convicted of drunk driving. So really, really bad day in this episode.
We can keep going at each other's throats, or we can team up.
Are you asking me to be your partner?
Yep.
All right, so we got an attorney literally being taken out of jail and being offered a job as a partner. Is that a problem? Well, it's not unethical to help someone who's going through a tough time, so you're allowed to do that. You could ask yourself, would the public find out? Would they have an issue? Man, the public can't keep track of what's going on at the highest levels of their government. They don't know what one firm's doing. It's not getting much publicity. Not enough people are going to care. The average consumer isn't going to know. However, you just brought in someone who's having active problems right then. What is the likelihood that's going to stabilize your life, your practice, and your ability to serve your clients? So helping someone out, great idea. Helping someone out at a point that they're clearly still struggling, probably a recipe for disaster. Like I tell my kids, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Who you surround yourself with at work, at home, anywhere else, huge impact. Probably not the best idea.
Pursuant to Section 15 of the contract, will initiate proceeding immediate injunctive relief.
So we just saw a character just say almost nothing, but sound really, really legalese saying it. This is why people hate lawyers. By the way, do you want to know what that means? We have no idea. It could be the beginning of something of real value, but it is hard to tell if that was just a bunch of words strung together. We'd have to see the alleged document she's talking about to even know if that made any sense. The scene starts with Kim Kardashian being investigated by the police. First, they come in and they have a warrant, and the warrant actually allows them to get all this material, including attorney-client privilege. All right. But then she sits down and talks to the officer investigating her, which is insane.
We looked into Mr. Walton because he committed a violent assault, and your bureau was content to do nothing about it.
I know it's just a show, but these lawyers are sitting there talking to someone investigating them when all of you know you don't talk to the police, and you know a lawyer would know to not talk to the police. And just watching this is like, come on, man. Like, law shows don't have to actually follow the law, but to watch someone who's supposed to be a lawyer just sit there and try to argue with the person investigating them, that's a good way to go to jail for something you may not have done. So Glenn Close walks in as a lawyer in the firm being investigated and immediately shuts it down in this scene and says, you don't talk to her. We don't talk to the police.
Over. Done. Everybody out.
And then proceeds to talk to the police. Oh my God! When she is part of the group of people being investigated, and then says,
If one of us were to commit murder, we'd be much, much better.
kind of implying that maybe there's some evidence here, it's just not right. Like everything about that, it boggles the mind, but I guess it makes for good shows or not good shows, depending on how you see it.
You know the drill. Mouths shut, ranks closed. Let's go.
Let's talk for a second about what people wear when they're lawyers. The world has changed. I've been a lawyer a long time now, so in the last 30 years, it has changed. It has totally become more casual. Maybe everywhere, but certainly in the states that I've been, the more places I go around over time, the more and more casual it gets. Does it ever get as casual as what we see Kim Kardashian's character wear here? Probably, just not a lot. It's not unethical. It's not illegal. Someone can wear what they want to wear to a point. Now, you walk into federal court like that, you got a problem. If you're a guy, you come into federal court without a jacket, there's a good chance you got a problem. Even state courts often.
Are you mocking me with that outfit?
It's interesting watching the character play the role, wearing something that you wouldn't expect a lawyer to wear, and yet sometimes you come to a deposition and a lawyer's damn near in a t-shirt, and you wouldn't expect that either. So now we got a scene where the judge at the front of the table, we got the parties on one side, parties on the other. Why is the judge introducing himself? Because this is not in court. This is a mediation or something similar. It's not at all uncommon for the judge to do that to gain credibility with the parties. The lawyers all know them. In a mediation setting, in most cases, the lawyers picked the mediator. They all know each other. They've been there many times. It's the clients at the table that need to hear who the judge is.
We all know you are way too honorable for that, Your Honor. Sir. Now that the opposing counsel has finished their ode to his honor's backside, can we get on with it?
As far as the bowing down, the people laughing at things that aren't funny because a judge says it, that might be the most realistic thing we see in this scene. Because the reality is people laugh at teachers that aren't funny. They laugh at old lawyer people like me that aren't funny. It is part of what happens. In this scene, we see them bending over backwards to gain favor with the judge. It really doesn't do you any good because the judge who's sitting as a mediator, which is what's happening here, has no power. They don't make final decisions. All they do is try to get the parties to come together. So kissing up to the mediator, that's wonderful, former judge or not, probably won't actually help you do anything in the case and may even hurt your credibility with the other side that you're fighting with. It's really interesting. In this scene, you have the two parties texting each other. So what I do as a trial lawyer, my client almost never, not never, but almost never knows the other party. They're strangers. They can't do that. But in a family law setting, they all know each other. And even though as a lawyer, I can't talk to the other party, the parties talk to each other all the time. In business disputes too, there are times with millions of dollars on the line between two companies that are still doing business with each other. They all know each other. The lawyers can hash out what we're going to do here. We're going to keep working. I'm not saying it's an everyday thing, but it happens. Parties are not precluded from talking to each other. Only lawyers are precluded from talking to the other party. We have a scene where the mediator trying to get the parties to come together has a couple of things going on. One, excuses the lawyer who's late.
Relax, counselor. It's Los Angeles. 5 minutes late is practically early.
Nothing else he can do. He's not the sitting judge. If I show up late for a mediation, there's nothing you can do about it. I'm paying you. You sit there in the position of authority to some degree, but you don't make any final decisions. If I show up late, it's rude. I owe an apology. It shouldn't happen. It usually doesn't happen. But if it does, what happens in this scene with there being kind of, it's okay, I get it, you're in California, let's just try to do better. Not much else you can do. Now, one thing that happened in this scene that is so real is the judge or the mediator made litigation sound horrible.
It's the legal version of root canal without anesthesia.
Every mediator, almost without any exception, will spend early part of the mediation trying to explain to parties that litigating or going to trial is the worst experience ever. It's so risky, it's so draining, it's so awful.
Litigation will exact a greater personal and financial toll on all parties involved.
Why? Well, one, it does suck. Okay, but beyond that, why? Because the mediator's job is to get the case settled. How does a mediator get paid? By the hour. How does he get hired? By people who think you're going to settle a case. You get judged as a mediator, and you get hired as a mediator by your ability to settle a case. So the more a mediator can scare the parties into thinking, holy crap, I need to be done today, the more likely he or she will be hired again down the road. So it's constant. And as a lawyer, if I have a great case and I have a client who's never been through it, I will explain to my clients before we ever show up, you're going to hear this song and dance about how horrible litigation is, how long it takes. I've already explained that to my client. So I want them to basically tune that part out, because the mediator is going to make it sound much worse. It's bad, but they're going to make it sound worse because the higher they can bring the stress of moving forward, the more likely they settle. But sometimes that means your client's settling for less than they should. If you're a client and your lawyer hasn't prepared you for that, that could be so overwhelming it makes you make a bad choice. So now we have a scene.
We're supposed to cry during your story, not hers, you idiot.
They're in a mediation. You got two parties who know each other. The wife, about to be ex-wife, shares her feelings. It makes the about-to-be ex-husband cry. The lawyer's mad at him. So first, what is your goal as a lawyer? Your goal should be your client's best outcome. Your client being willing to hear the other side is not the end of the world. It could actually be a good thing. Now, it could go too far. Your client could be getting manipulated. Your client could be getting pressured. So as a lawyer, you have to get a feel for that. Calling your client a flippin' idiot, let alone doing it when the other side can see, so ridiculous that if you ever have that happen, your own lawyer uses harsh language towards you, you don't have to deal with that. You're the client. You are not an inmate. You can leave your lawyer, and if a lawyer talks to you that way, you should seriously consider leaving the lawyer. If a lawyer talks that way in front of the adversary, you should be gone.
The trust, I imagine, also funds scholarship opportunities for students from this torture school, yes?
It does not.
And why is that?
Because when I was able to do so, I bought that fucking school.
So this is a mediation in this scene where each side is trying to work it out. And we just saw one lawyer do a great job of lawyering and get someone else to admit something they didn't want to admit. Does that happen? Yeah. On a great cross-examination, you get the other side to admit what they didn't want to admit. It's a pretty regular occurrence. Not easy, but you can do it. You would never do it there, or you should never do it there. Why? Because it's not being recorded. There is no court reporter. It's not under oath. It's not a proceeding in a way that you could then use it later to impeach that person. So if you had something that good, that is not where you're likely to use it. That's number one. Number two, if that did happen, the lawyers would have a problem too, because they're required to disclose information they have, and it looks like they failed to do it. Now, if instead of a mediation, we have an arbitration setting where this judge isn't helping the parties come together, but is making a decision, now we got a scene where we just had a huge possible problem. Because not only was something not disclosed, that something that wasn't disclosed could undermine the entire agreement that is basically what's being resolved here. Now, if it was an arbitration, then you would not expect the arbitrator, the decision maker, the judge, to talk to each party separately in the middle of it. That would be improper in most settings.
I'm not too happy with how this evidence was introduced.
Ms. Grant introduced it herself.
After a very leading cross-examination.
a leading cross-examination. You know what else that's called? Cross-examination. You're not allowed to lead in a direct of your own witness. You are 100% encouraged to lead in a cross-examination. So the idea that it was two leading in cross just ignores the rules of evidence and how a good cross-examination is done. Many people would argue that you should avoid anything other than leading questions in cross-examination. I tend to disagree. I think sometimes you can really get a lot out if you're prepared, no matter which way they go, to give an open-ended question. I don't care what answer you give, because I got evidence, I got a response either way. But there are many lawyers, many good lawyers, who would only lead on cross. So the idea that was improper is ridiculous.
Which brings into question the validity of the entire prenup.
I will make that call.
Okay, this entire scene that we just saw is someone calling himself as a mediator, but saying he's going to make the decision as to what's important. So we have a total confusion going on here as to what's going on here. An arbitrator decides whether or not evidence is important and what to do with it. An arbitrator is basically a private judge or jury. A mediator just helps the parties come to an agreement. In this scene, we have a clear disconnect. Apparently, no one consulted any trial lawyer anywhere before writing a scene and putting it out there, because that makes no sense. You can't be both. You do have times where we agree to mediate, and if the mediation doesn't work, we'll arbitrate. It's unusual, but it can happen. But this discussion that we see in this scene still couldn't happen. Either you're making the decision or you're trying to bring us together. And if you're making the decision, why are you talking to the parties separately? Not good. The idea that you don't want to consider it because it was a leading cross-examination, insane. So we have all sorts of problems here, because what we're seeing can't happen, because there is no proceeding quite like the one we're expected to watch here. I don't look the same all of a sudden. All right, this took us a couple different days to get through. This law stuff gets busy and I get pulled away, but I'm back, and let's jump back into where we were.
So for the purpose of this mediation, why don't we proceed as if there is no prenup and just see how that looks?
All right, so the mediator, who has no power to do anything, has just suggested that one side abandon their strongest argument and see how that goes. Sure, a mediator could do that, but mediators are there to get the case settled. So what's much more likely to happen is the mediator would go into the room of the side that created the prenup and said, you're in big trouble, we should negotiate this as if you don't even have a prenup. And then would go in the other room and go, you should assume that this prenup is gonna work, and negotiate to try to get them together, or something along those lines. It doesn't have to be disingenuous, but to just say, let's assume in this room that that party over there has no more standing for the most powerful piece of evidence, probably not an effective way to mediate. Entertaining, probably not effective.
Allura, stop. There are no embryos, Car.
Are you serious, Allura? Shh. Enough, Car! I don't care if I'm not supposed to say it. I'm sorry, Allura. I'm so sorry.
All right, so in this scene, this very entertaining scene, I don't understand the hate of this show, because that scene alone would be worth watching. That was great. What did we just watch unravel? We watched a lawyer tell the client not to speak, who then spoke anyway. Another lawyer told the other client on the other side of the table not to speak, who spoke anyway. Woo, does this ever happen? Well, this is why most mediations, you don't put everybody in the same room, because you want the clients to be able to follow the advice of their lawyers. And when the clients start talking to each other, unlike in the scene we just watched, it usually only gets worse.
I'm still taking your law firm.
As far as the lawyers, like, I'm coming after your law firm, you would have to prove that the law firm did something wrong, not the client. So if a client does something that she's not allowed to do, the law firm is, I'm not responsible for your actions as my client. I'm responsible for my actions as your lawyer. So if you cheat, lie, and steal and I don't know it, that's on you, as it should be. If I encourage you or allow you to cheat, lie, and steal and testify to it, now it's on me too. Could it happen? Almost everything in that was unlikely, but super entertaining. A+ scene, best scene so far. We just see a scene with some graphic references.
Ooh, enough.
Could that ever happen in court? First of all, that's not court, that's a mediation. It could happen. Highly unlikely to happen, because the reputation you have as a lawyer has a huge impact on the outcome for your clients. That kind of graphic language, not so much the words they were using, but what they were talking about, all parts of it, unprofessional, probably not going to happen. Does it ever happen? I've bumped into remarkably unprofessional lawyers, but they're really rare, so probably not. Let's see where else this show takes us. So now we have a scene where, well, one, I just keep being annoyed by a mediator with no power trying to get things settled, acting as if the mediator is a judge and it's a proceeding and we have to follow what he says.
Yeah, I have to agree with Ms. Lane here. The evidence, while compelling, is not admissible in the scope of this proceeding, all right?
We don't have to follow what you say, Mr. Mediator, in this case, because we paid you. So we're going to try to do it our own way, and we're going to be respectful, and we trust you, Mr. Mediator. We're not going to just bow to what you say, number one. Number two, in the scene, we have a mediator saying, well, that really is just, leverage. It doesn't matter. Leverage matters. It's not just what's going to happen in court. For instance, here's something that my clients have to hear all the time. Well, if this case goes on, it's going to take a long time. We're going to take a lot of debt. We're going to make things really uncomfortable. That's not about the case. Why are they saying it? Because they're using the leverage they have to try to force my clients to bail out early. And it's my job to get my clients to be willing that if it's in their best interest to keep fighting. Okay, so we just had a lawyer directly attack an adverse client.
To expose assholes like you.
Almost will never happen. The lawyers may attack each other, the clients may attack each other, and always the clients seem to hate the other lawyers. But a lawyer coming after someone else's client directly, not about him, but at him, totally unprofessional and maybe unethical. It could get you in trouble. So we have a scene where two lawyers both act unethically enough that they would both be suspended from many state bars. One lawyer threatens to expose pictures of another lawyer on the internet.
Are you sure you're not talking about your steamy photo shoot, Em?
What?
And then the other lawyer threatens to use a recorded, embarrassing DUI arrest. I need a man. Just ridiculous. Do lawyers ever do this? You need two really unethical, immature, and ridiculous unprofessional lawyers to have this happen. I've never seen anything quite like that. But if you're a lawyer and you've seen something like that, maybe you were engaged in it too. That's crazy.
I am going to report your ass at the fucking state bar. Tell them how you used your former law enforcement contacts to access privileged information.
Not privileged information. So when the police record you on their body cam or inside their patrol vehicle, whatever they record, actually a public record. So the next time you're interacting with an officer and you decide that, I'm going to act A, B, and C, just know that is a public record forever, ever, ever.
Not once, many times, before and after the split. Come on.
Car, come on.
Tell her how he...
So we just watched a lawyer attack a client and say about the meanest thing she could to the other person's client, not her own client.
Well, I am a better lawyer, a better lover, a better mother, which is something you will never, ever be, you infertile, career-obsessed
Carl, Daddy, chill.
If you do that, if you have that kind of meltdown and you just lose your mind, are you going to be disbarred and never be allowed to be a lawyer again? Maybe. This is set in a mediation, so what she said may not have been recorded. People will testify to it, but if you see something, it's way more powerful than people testifying about it. If you had had no prior meltdowns like this, no prior ethical issues, my guess is you wouldn't lose your license forever. But this got so mean, maybe you would. Something's got to be going on to have that kind of meltdown.
She also got a DUI too, if you remember.
Yeah, I remember.
That's the same person.
I mean, that's what set her off. Ultimately, she got set off because she had to see the tape of a DUI that we saw earlier that was actually her. But she actually started all this by threatening the other lawyer and throwing. So she's not going to get a lot of sympathy from a lot of people. Why does the state bar take action against lawyers? The idea is to protect the public. And that's what it comes down to, right? And different state bars look at this very differently. Some states, you better toe the line, and other states, hey, you're a lawyer, but you're also a citizen. We're not going to take away your right to practice law unless it's really extreme. So where you are will affect this. Your history will affect this. But you go after someone in the way she went after somebody, and people see it, and there's almost certainly going to be repercussions. Fortunately, this is not what happens a lot in real life. That's a crazy meltdown in this scene. So we have a scene that follows a more important scene where there's a really, really mean attacking blow up, and then they all suddenly love each other and they all just get along. In the real world, this is not the way divorces end that start this contentious and this public almost ever. However, if you ever go through a divorce, as you start interviewing a divorce lawyer, ask them first, so they don't know where you're going, about when they've had to get really aggressive and really stop the other side. So that way they don't know. And then say, can you tell me some examples? Have you ever had to be the one to slow it down, or are you always there to be aggressive? Because a lot of divorces should not be as adversarial as they are. And I believe, and I've never done divorce law, it's always been injury law, and I'm a trial lawyer, but from the outside looking in, I think a lot of the adversarial nature of divorce law is worse for everybody involved. It'd be good to have lawyers on each side going, let's see what we can work out, instead of skyrocketing our attorney's fees and the anger, because when the trial's over, the case is over, the two people who got divorced often have to see each other still the rest of their lives. So not making them hate each other more might be a good thing. So we have a scene where a lawyer comes in to tell other lawyers to stop talking and then gets mad at the police for asking questions. Hey, you don't need a warrant to ask questions. And if the person's allowed to leave and chooses not to leave, you're still allowed to ask the questions, which is why you should not talk to the police if they're investigating you, because they know the rules as they should, and you don't know the rules because it's not your job to know the rules. You know whose job it is to know the rules? The lawyer you get. How do you get a lawyer? Say it with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I want a lawyer. That's it. By the way, I am not a criminal lawyer. Do you know what I know how to say? I want a lawyer. That's it. Just say that. I know it would take away from good TV, but just say that. So let me break down All's Fair in my opinion. Is it realistic? Not even a little. Like in no way. However, are you gonna hold it against a legal show that it's not realistic? There's almost no legal shows that are realistic. You're gonna hold it against a medical show that it's not real? Come on, man. It is even less realistic than many legal shows. It does put itself, though, in quasi-real situations, and then it takes the liberty you expect. I am not an expert in acting. I'm just an expert trial lawyer. However, the acting to me, which I had heard from the man behind the camera, is supposed to be terrible.
You, Arch, have now threatened to take this outside of the legal arena, so now I have no choice but to follow suit.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought the acting was good. I liked the characters. I bought into the characters, and it didn't bother me the show was not realistic. Now, let's give it a score of 0 to 100. I'm at like an 8. But let me explain why.
Funny enough, you say that. That's the actual Rotten Tomato score that it has.
Is that really?
Yeah.
But I want to explain what sounds like hate with my 8.
The scenes I cut out are the scenes that were the bad acting. And a majority of the cast did good. I think a couple people kind of dragged everybody else.
What I saw, I had good actors. The characters were interesting. I enjoyed it. I don't think I'm its target demographic. The storyline was not my favorite. I was doing the 8 out of 0 or 100 based upon what I want to watch it. I don't want to watch it. But like overall, it's better than that. To me, it's a watchable, fun show. Enjoy it. And a solid 31. But for me, it's an 8 because I don't want to watch the show. Thank you for watching. Now, here's the deal. Go ahead and comment. I got to know what else you want. What should I be looking at? Listen, you don't get a lot of access to someone who's actually in court fighting for people, built a firm that fights for people. What do you want me to look at? What would you like me to respond to? Don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, all those things. And check this out. Now, right there. Is it right there? It's right there. Right there is YouTube saying you got to watch this. And YouTube doesn't get things wrong. Right there. Watch this. We will see you next time from the Husband and Wife Law Team.